Hi everyone, it's Andy from Hobby Headquarters. One of the biggest questions I get on my video channel is about using Tamiya glue, Tamiya paint, and airbrushing questions. So today I thought I would do a tutorial for you guys on how to use and thin Tamiya paint and paint properly with it, some airbrush 101 basics with it, as well as the different types of Tamiya glue that are out on the market and how to use them. So let's get started on Okay, I want to first talk to you about Tamiya cement and the three different types that they have out on the market. They have the regular standard cement, the orange bottle, regular green top, which is their extra thin, and they've just recently issued a Tamiya extra thin quick setting, which is this lime green, lemon lime green looking cap on it. Each one of them has a definite type of use for it. The regular cement is really good for big areas that you do not want the glue to dry instantly. The extra thin cement is really good for doing little areas because the glue has a tendency to evaporate and dry up really fast. So you have to be careful with it. So you don't want to be doing like the wings on a 48 scale airplane and start on one part of the wing and then it dries by the time you try to put the other half on. That's why for the most part I usually use just the Tamiya extra thin. It flows real well. All of these are solvent based, that they actually melt the plastic and bond it back together, so it'll be a nice strong bond. I'll show you on this right here. We've got one of the figures from the new SU-76 that kit we're putting together. What we're going to do right here is just brush a little bit on the piece. You can actually let that sit for a second or two and then just push it into shape right here, and you can see that the glue dries really quick, or actually starts bonding really quickly, so you don't have much of a problem with it. If you're worried about that you didn't get enough bonding on it, you can always brush a little right around the outside edge, and that'll soak in. Actually give it a tiny bit more push on it, make sure it's bonding real well, and within a few minutes that'll actually be strong enough that it won't be coming off at all. I wouldn't handle it too much in this part right here because it is still somewhat soft and still can come off on it. Now I'll show you with this other extra thin cement. You brush a little bit on right there, and the key to this one is you want to actually put it on wet, because if you just brush on a small amount, it's going to evaporate too quickly that it won't even have a chance to start setting up in there. And you can see there's a little pool in it, and it's actually starting to evaporate as we speak. And push right into place right there. And whoop, you can see some of the plastics coming out on the other side there. But like I was saying, it sets up pretty quickly, and you can also put a little bit on that in there if you're worried about it getting a little extra inside there. One else thing that you'll notice in some of the models when I build, when you use any of these cements, it is going to make a shiny spot on the plastic, and that's completely okay. You don't have to worry about that it's messing up the plastic unless you touch it and put a fingerprint in it. But all that is doing is just discoloring the top of the plastic. When you go to paint over it, that'll completely vanish and go away. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about a no-fail way of thinning Tamiya paint. When you get a brand new bottle of Tamiya paint right from the store, open it up and you'll notice inside here there's an air gap where the paint starts, and there's this little area right in here. You'll also notice that there's a lip inside the top of the mouth here. What I'll do is I'll take X20 thinner or Tamiya's lacquer thinner, and using a pipette so as not to make a mess, I'll fill it up right to that little lip. What that'll do is that'll give you a tiny amount of air in there so the paint will still mix really well, and that equates to about 20% thinner. But I find that when you do that, shake the heck out of the bottle, this entire bottle is ready to airbrush from start to finish of the bottle. Okay, one tip I want to give you guys for cleaning your airbrush is, rather than having to buy some elaborate airbrush cleaner, what you can normally use is this Lysol all-purpose cleaner. This works really well at taking even dried Tamiya paint out of your airbrush. I'll spray a little bit inside the pot and through there and let it soak in there for a couple seconds and rub the inside. and right away you can see it starts to take old paint out of it, no matter how long it's been dried in there. So and then you can actually just spray the rest out, and you can see it'll clean the inside of your brush. That got left over from a couple hours ago, so the paint had dried inside there, but now that once you have a good clean airbrush, you're ready to go. Okay, before we actually start putting the paint on this vehicle right here, we're going to talk about the shadow coat underneath, the XF69. You can also use XF1 too, which is just regular black as well. I like the NATO black. It's just got a nice color to it, because when I actually paint any type of rubber or wheels on it, you can actually leave it that same color because it has a nice rubber look on it. And immediately I get lots and lots of questions. Why don't you prime? Why don't you prime? And the reason is because I don't. I don't think it needs it. Tamiya paint sticks very, very well to plastic models. Just like I don't clean any of my models when I get them new. I've always found that any type of mold release that people talk about, I've never seen it on any. The older kits used to be that way, but all the new Tamiya kits, I never wash them. I don't need to do any of that kind of stuff, and Tamiya paint sticks perfectly to it. So this first coat that we always put down on our vehicles is the NATO black. And what that's going to do is that's going to go into all the little nooks and crannies right there and darken up the paint. Okay, the first thing I want to show you is I've purposely made the paint a little too thick to show you what it's going to look like. And right off the top, you should notice that there's a lot of little dots and flakes that are coming out on it. And anytime you start getting dots on it like that, get you a nice close-up right there, what that's telling you right there is your paint is too thick and that you need to thin it down slightly. And conversely, if it is too thin, your paint will start to spider web. It'll hit and then it'll flash out into all different areas right there. So let me show you what it's going to look like with actually the right type of paint. I'm using an Iwata HPC airbrush for this demonstration. It's the one I normally use in most of my videos. And you want to hold the brush probably about 6 to 7 inches away from the model and have nice even flowing coats going back and forth. I set my compressor at 22 psi, and I find that that works really well with the gravity fed brush. Okay, that was a brand new bottle of NATO Black that I had thinned just to that point, like I told you guys, up to that little lip. And you can see the paint goes on like glass. It's just a perfect finish on it. You'll have no streaks and you'll have no little chunks going out. Like I said, those are usually meaning that your paint is too thick or too thin. So now that we've put on the shadow coat, you can go back over it and you'll put the paint over that. And what it'll do is it'll make some shadow effects, especially in these little nooks and crannies down in here. Okay, now that we've got a nice even base coat down on it, I've taken the XF62, the olive drab, and I'll show you what you can kind of do. Hopefully it won't block the camera too much. And what you can go ahead and do is just paint your inner wheels right there without having to mask. You're going to have to get really close, within an inch of actually to the model itself, and not pulling all the way back so you don't have a lot of pressure. You might even want to dial the pressure down a little bit on it. And if you get any overspray on it right there, it basically blends right into the black, and once we do all of our weathering on it, you wouldn't see it anyway. So that's a little trick to kind of speed up rather than having to mask a lot of road wheels. Now if you're going to be using a completely opposite color like a light tan or something, you might have a little bit more and you might want to have to do a little touch up on it, but that just gives you an idea why we put the shadow coat on. When we go to put our final paint job on, remember we don't want to go too heavy on the paint itself, because if you put on too thick of a coat, you're going to hide most of the shadow coat that we spent all the time putting on. So you want to put it on so you're not seeing the black at all come through, but you will start to see some highlighting and variations in tone. And I personally like that. Some people, if you don't, you can put more paint on it. But anytime you start to see the variations in tone, I think it looks really good and it starts to give a worn, faded look. Okay, one other thing I want to talk to you guys about that I get a lot of questions about. A lot of times you'll see me at the end of the video putting on XF57 buff. And what this is kind of like a dust coat to go on there, and this will lighten and fade down all your paints and give things kind of a worn look. What I've done here is I've put a little masking tape in this one little area here. It's just stuck to the wrong thing here. That I'm going to show you side-by-side comparison. Now when you put the buff coat on, you thin the paint exactly the same way as you would in the other Tamiya paints, but the only difference here is you're going to actually keep the brush probably about 10 to 12 inches farther back from it. And when you're doing it, just do it in a light circular pattern and don't let any paint accumulate too much in one area. So I'll do the back of this thing to show you here. And then also I'll show you to you on the wheels. It really works well on black rubber tires. Just a little bit in there. So let's pull the tape off and you'll see the difference in the what the dust coat does to it. Kind of lightens it down, dirties it up a little bit. I want to thank everyone for watching the video today. I hope that answered a lot of your questions. I also want to thank everyone who has watched all my videos and has subscribed to our channel. As of this morning, we hit 7,300 subscribers, which I think is phenomenal for the short time that we've been on. I also want to thank all the people that have made the trek out to Phoenix, Arizona and stopped by the store and said hello. Love to see you. Love to see more of you. And also, I just want to encourage everyone to go out there and model. Modeling is a fun, relaxing hobby. So stay tuned. We've got more videos on the way.